Welcome back. Mayor-elect Olivia Chow is speaking to reporters. We'll listen in live now.
Okay. Before I begin, I want to extend my condolence to the loved ones of Carolina Kirpna Macret, who was killed in Leslieville. This is a horrible tragedy. My office has been in touch with the police, and we are very grateful for them for working on this situation. People in our city deserve to be safe. They deserve to feel safe. The challenge before me when I become mayor is to find ways to end gun violence and all types of violence in our city so that tragedies like this one do not happen. And this is a top priority for me. As you know, this is the third of my transitional meetings. The first one was dealing with local economic opportunities in the Golden Mile area. The second one was about dealing with people that are experiencing crisis and having the appropriate, well-trained workers to come answering the 211 calls and transforming the 911 calls into a team of people that deal with crisis. The third one here is I want to bring here all of those elements together in this place, YWCA. This M housing house women that have been living in crisis, whether they are through addictions or through other kind of trauma or because they've suffered violence in their lives. They come together and they have supportive services wrapped around them. As a result, they find hope. This is a building that are built with clear collaboration, close collaboration with 3 levels of government. The federal government came in, and the provincial, through health and other ministry, support the work here, and so has the city through the rent year to income programs. The private sector, the good citizens of Toronto, also stepped up. And in 2008, when the city was in the middle of a financial situation, not very good one, donated over $15 million to make this beautiful home available for over 165, well, actually over 200 families. This building housed both single and a woman with children, with kids, and it's just a wonderful example. YWCA also have other buildings. There's one in Church, another one on Woodlawn program, where they provide shelter for people that are having immediate needs. And then they go into the second stage housing. And then from there, they have permanent housing. So you see that whole transition from streets to a bit of support to permanent housing. It's an amazing model of what we could do together here at the city to solve the homelessness and housing crisis. And the kind of service they have harm reduction, mental health service, immigration issues, whatever the people need, YWCA, their workers come together and make it work. On top of that, they provide economic activities. Inspiration is they teach women that have experienced violence in their life, intimate partner violence, to do ceramic. And this is something they've created, and they sell it in order to make some money. And they say that through doing clay and doing art, they heal. And of course, they open up the economic opportunities. Isn't this a beautiful example of how when we do the right kind of work, people can heal and also make some money for themselves? I also want to say that this place is where people find safety. I talked at the beginning about violence, gun violence. There's an other type of violence. It's harder to see, but just as deadly. Every 48 hours, a woman or a girl is killed by their partner here in Canada. And it is a serious problem. And hopefully, all of us, whether in this city or all over the country, we pay attention to this kind of violence, this intimate partner violence. Having a safe home, however, saves lives, as we witness here at YWCA. And I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to join with their excellent team here and learned a whole lot. And I would take the lessons that I have learned and the kind of work that they do back to City Hall so that we could replicate this kind of good work all across the city. Questions for anyone?
Madam
Yes,
Mayor,
CBC.
Martin Trainer, CBC News. After the last few days, how can you convince people that the city is safe? How will you curb violence?
Well, we continue to live in this great city of ours. Even just today, we started a campaign that talks about a city for all, that there is no room for hate and violence. And I'm a firm believer that this city of ours and the people we have is very resilient. We have wonderful people like the workers here at YWCA that deal with violence. We have the police officers, we have EMS, we have the entire city services very focused on dealing with crisis, dealing with violence. And there is a Safe TO program, and they've been doing good work. I will continue to support their work. And it's a public health, police, and local partnership. They're beginning to see results, and I will be supporting the Safe TO work in order to reduce gun violence and any form of violence here in the city.
Mayor, like during the election, there was a lot of talk about how to address these kinds of issues, and it ranged from, on one side, kind of flooding the streets with as many police officers as we can possibly hire, to actually taking money away from the police budget and diverting it to non-police or non-enforcement kind of crisis mitigation and also youth programs. So you're about to take office on Wednesday. What course are you going to take to try and keep people safer, specifically?
The interesting thing is that everyone has an element of truth, every suggestions. It's not one size fit all. If you're talking about intimate partner violence, it's a different kind of intervention. You're talking about people that suffer mental health crisis, a different kind of intervention. You're talking about gun violence, that's different too. Dealing where are the guns coming from? Are there hope for young people, for example? So I think it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's a combination of all that it is out there, all the best practices. And then let's use a public health, a scientific approach. What has worked in the past? How could we expand those? And then we track the results. City like Glasgow have done it. We have seen it work in other cities. There's no reason why Toronto can't do the same. It is a very collaborative, cooperative approach. Okay.
Are you satisfied then with the number of boots on the ground within the Toronto Police right now, or would you like to see that number increased or reduced?
Our numbers in terms of across North America, in Canada, are comparable, and in terms of percentage of violence or safety, recently there's been a report that lists us as not, comparing to, say, other cities, we are in relatively good shape. However, one death is one death too many. Whether it's in the hands of intimate partners or by a stray bullet or by a knife wound, it is not acceptable, and we will do what we can to stop this kind of violence. And I'm convinced that together we have the solutions.
Are there any new measures for public safety?
You've been listening live to Mayor-elect Olivia Chow speaking to reporters after her third transitional engagement today. Now, she, of course, was addressing gun violence and says it's her top priority, finding ways to tackle gun violence. She also spoke about today's transitional meeting, which she says is about YWCA, tackling intimate partner violence and housing women who have been living in crisis.